Hello and welcome to Movie Nights, another exciting edition where I'm joined by Ed today. And today we're going to discuss the Netflix special. I don't think I can quite call it a movie, but like a Netflix special,
Mm.
Death to 2020, which is a kind of humorous, in inverted commas, depending on your view, review show of 2020. So it kind of goes through the year's events and has lots of famous comedians, actors, these kind of people basically acting as characters and
Mm.
sort of giving commentary on the events of the year.
Mm.
Uh, so I think it's fair to say that neither of us were that impressed with Death to 2020, and I guess we'll explain our further views
Mm.
more. But I just wanted to ask you, so to give a bit of context as well, this is written by Charlie Brooker, who is most known for his work on Black Mirror and his own TV specials, in which he basically does the same thing as this, like give a year-long review, but it's him presenting it instead, and like he's the one who actually presents the show. So I wanted to start by you. Have you ever seen any of Charlie Brooker's like yearly reviews that he's done
Oh
himself?
yeah, absolutely. I used to watch Weekly Wipe as well.
Right there, yeah. I thought you would have done. I just thought I wanted to double check that. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, and
and
the difference in quality is quite
yeah,
noticeable.
well, that is something that is very clear. I think we'll get onto. Yeah, because I the reason I watched this is because I'm a fan of his yearly reviews,
Yeah.
like his all of his wipes that he's done. He actually did one this year as well. I
Mm.
don't know whether you saw it. It was he made during lockdown.
Well, yeah, there was the antiviral wipe
Yeah,
which he made
exactly.
when
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole when it was all kicking off, and then
yeah,
he sort
yeah.
of like quite I must admit he quite lazily just re-released it and called it like a 2020 recap or whatever.
Yeah, that was at Christmas. Yeah, but that one was significantly better than this.
Oh yeah, and
So,
it basically did the same thing, minus a lot of the pointless celebrity cameos. But I guess I'm getting ahead of
yeah.
myself.
So yeah. That's the context of this. That's why I watched it, and I thought when I didn't enjoy when it was very disappointing to me, I thought it would be a good topic of discussion for the two of us to have.
Yeah, you thought I didn't like it, so I'll subject Ed to it as
Yeah, I
well.
thought I'll force Ed to watch this for the entertainment of movie night viewers.
Absolutely.
So what were your initial thoughts then on Death to 2020? I guess we kind of slightly covered that, but
To be honest, I think the biggest thing is just you're right, like how just basically pointless it is. I
yeah,
mean, it was essentially recapping the events of the year, which, I was there.
yeah.
I don't need to really to like recap
Well,
the
I
events
think
of the year where I was there.
yeah, I think it
Unlike,
with a
go on.
year like 2020, it takes a certain kind of like a certain level of talent to make that funny, because
Mm,
ultimately, when you're not laughing, you're just then
mm.
sitting through what happened in 2020, which is not that entertaining, like
Oh,
when
I
you're there.
agree.
Yeah,
And Charlie Brooker is like the master of like black comedy.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and I love it too. I think that you can make anything funny.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
but even still, I feel like a lot of the humor in this quote unquote was like in pretty bad taste.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was weird. It was like it wasn't really. It was more like they were making fun out of it rather than like you know telling creative jokes with it like Charlie Brooker does.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. It's obviously a very it's quite an intangible distinction to make. But yeah, I just got that general impression that they were sort of like yeah, just weren't. They were just saying. Well, at best, it was basically just making really obvious jokes.
yeah, yeah,
At worst, it was just like making jokes at the expense of like people dying. I don't know. It's a weird one.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
What did
well,
you think, Albert?
yeah, I agree. I thought it was very disappointing because it there were I mean fundamentally because I didn't find it funny, and ultimately that kind of show is going for making you
Yeah,
laugh. And I think always for me anyway, the worst failures are comedy failures. Like
yeah.
if I watch a horror film that's not scary, I
There
can
can be other
sometimes
stuff you
at least,
like in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can at least it can at least sometimes be entertaining or just funny to laugh at. But when you watch a comedy in which you
Oh
don't
yeah.
laugh, it's one of the most like depressing experiences you could have.
You
And it
are
was,
you are so right with that. Honestly,
yeah,
like
yeah,
there's nothing that makes me angrier than watching something that's supposed to be funny but
yeah,
isn't.
yeah. It's one of the reasons that if a studio puts a lot of money into comedies, they can be some of the biggest failures around because if you get the word of mouth that it's not funny,
Mm.
like even something like like Cats or something like that. the word of mouth with Cats wasn't, it's really great, go see it. The word of mouth was, it's
Yeah.
so bad, you have to see it. If somebody says, oh yeah, I saw this comedy the other day, how was it? Oh, it wasn't funny. Right, I'm not going to
Yeah.
see that. You know, like that's
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If it's
yeah,
like not meaning to be funny but is funny
yeah,
just
yeah.
because but like that's so much better than if it's not funny
And it's trying to
but
be
it's
funny.
trying to be
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just miserable. It's a miserable
yeah, yeah.
experience that you should not put yourself through.
Yeah, well, I think Charlie Brooker is someone who's been pretty consistent. I know there's some people who don't like some of the episodes of Black Mirror, and I think that that's fair enough.
That's fair enough.
Um,
I mean, there's so many episodes, you're not
yeah,
gonna
and it is
get.
it's an anthology show, so like
Yeah,
the very nature of the show is that you would compare each episode, the quality of each
yeah.
episode. But in
No,
his comedy,
absolutely.
on his comedy, his wipes are all pretty consistently funny.
Hmm.
And even the one he made this year, the antiviral wipe, was significantly funnier than this. Taking
It was.
the events of 2020 and making them humorous was something
Hmm.
that is difficult, and he managed to do at the time. But this, for me, was very disappointing.
It's just like you can, if I wanted to just see people go, haha, 2020 was really bad, I just go on Twitter. Like, it's
Yeah.
such an obvious joke at this point. Like,
Well,
yeah, it was a shit year.
to me, it felt like you wouldn't really know it was anything to do with him, really,
Yeah, no, I
because
agree.
and actually, when I looked this up later, I mentioned it to you the other day that there's actually 18 credited writers on this show.
Was he even the writer? Was he not just executive
He's
producer or
he
something?
is credited as a writer on it, but he's also
Right.
credited as an executive producer. He's credited as a writer. If you stuck around till the very end, you can hear his voice when he's sort of saying thank you to the. There's a bit of a bit in the credits where he's sort of like talking to the people that he's talked to and saying like
Hmm.
thanks for doing this or something. So the
Hmm.
idea is that he was the kind of the person behind it in a sense.
Yeah.
But to me, very few of the jokes really feel like the kind of thing he's doing. And I think it's partly
Yeah.
because in his wipes, he's the voice behind, he's the presenter of it. Whereas in here, you do have a narrator. The narrator's Lawrence Fishburne, but what's the point in getting Lawrence Fishburne if you already have Charlie Brooker to do the narration? Like it's so
There
confusing.
was way too many. Like, I like a lot of the people involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same. Yeah,
But there was just too many people. Like, I think this
yeah,
is like a
yes,
too many cooks type situation where there
yes.
was just so many actors and they were all trying to be fun. I feel like, maybe you would have got a bit more out of it if they were being more genuine and
Mm,
like maybe in a weird way that would have been more funny because I feel like this I just got the sense that like they weren't the actors or whatever talking. They were
mm.
just being fed lines.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, some of them were playing like a
oh
character.
yeah, that's the other
Some of
thing
them,
too.
yeah. So some of you have a lot of famous people in this who some of them are playing at least sort of characters that are meant to be humorous characters. Some of them are meant to be playing characters but aren't really. I think Samuel L. Jackson is the biggest option. I think he's meant to
Mm.
be a character, but he's essentially just himself. Like,
I don't know. I feel like he's meant to be himself,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they still feed him lines.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's what's odd. Yeah.
but it would have been funnier. Like, if you see the Samuel L. Jackson interviews and stuff, he's a funny guy. Like,
Yeah, there's loads of people in this who are already comedians. Like, why didn't you just let them like do their own thing?
riff, yeah.
Um,
And they do that
I-
thing I hate in mockumentaries where the guy like asks them a question off camera and you can still hear it. And
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like, look, like, it's cringy when it happens in normal documentaries, but when it's a mockumentary, like,
it's old, a long time ago, that kind of
I
thing.
don't know, like it's so fake and like so artificial when it's supposed to be not. Like, it's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pointless.
I found a
But
lot of the I found a lot of the characters really
no, I
cringeworthy
didn't like
as
any of
well.
them. Yeah,
So
oh, is it the Queen? Haha, didn't look anything like the
well,
Queen.
I thought a particular bad one was the YouTuber one
Oh yeah.
because it was so, all the jokes were
It's
so
just,
obvious. Like,
an old man wrote that one.
could tell like somebody really old, like even using the term millennial, I find
Yeah,
such an embarrassing term. Like nobody who's actually a young person would ever use the term millennial to describe it.
yeah,
And it's such a cliche when he's like, oh, all I do is go on YouTube and
yeah.
uh,
No, this is the thing. It's like the bottom line is just like every joke is just the most low hanging fruit, easy
yeah,
joke you could
yeah.
possibly make. The whole
Same,
thing is an easy
same,
joke. Like
yeah,
2020 was bad, haha. Move on.
same with the woman who's the like Trump supporter.
Yeah,
I mean, like
No.
Trump jokes are so obvious.
Oh my God,
Like,
they're so old by
can't
this
do them
point.
anymore. You know, like they're just, you just gotta leave them behind now. Like,
You know what? I'm
the world is
like, that
changed.
is the biggest thing I'm looking forward to. Like, just no more Trump jokes anymore. I
Yeah,
bet people will still find a way to do them, but like, they were old in like 2016. Like,
yeah, yeah,
they're not funny anymore. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't watch.
Well,
I
it's
used to watch
because
SNL, and I can't watch it anymore.
it's particularly because they're all about like just his appearance and all the
They're all
classic
the
stuff.
same.
Yeah, they're all the same. It's not,
He's orange. He's stupid. Like,
you could
it's all
make
the
jokes
same
about
shit.
anything if they are funny, but not if your joke is just he has stupid hair or
Or they
he
do
looks
or they
stupid.
do a really bad
Yeah,
impression of him. Like,
yeah, or do, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I know what he sounds like. Like, you know,
yeah, exactly.
honestly.
Dear me. But yeah, that's like, humor is subjective. So maybe it's not fair to say like, oh, just because we didn't find it funny, it was bad. But
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it is objective to say that all the jokes made in this were really easy.
yeah.
Like,
There was
they
actually
were very easy
there's a review of it, of Death 2020, in the I believe in the Independent, I think. I
jokes.
can't remember the guy
Yeah,
who wrote it, but he similarly slates a lot of it, and I think he slates the kind of laziness of the jokes.
yeah,
Like, it's not really the not funny. Like, you know, if you tried your absolute hardest, you know, if you're a
yeah,
new comedian on the block, you know, doing stand-up comedy, and you try your absolute hardest, I can at least give you the credit of trying.
yeah,
But this feels so much more like it was so like rushed and like
yeah.
just thrown together
Mm.
to put on Netflix, and it's just like, right, that'll do, put that on
Well,
Netflix,
like you said,
you know.
when there's very little to get out of something that's trying to be funny but isn't. I suppose
Yeah,
the one thing that you could get out of it is if it was like something unique or
yeah,
original,
yeah,
but it just so happens to not be funny. But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is neither.
Yeah, and it feels much more like a sort of cash grab for everyone, because it's like trading on the Brooker name, despite the
Mm.
fact that he has hardly anything to do with it. Trading
No,
on the
you
fact that it's got
can.
lots of famous people in it, but in fact, you know, effectively just making money for Netflix.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
just an
know it's
easy thing. Like, yeah,
yeah,
like you
I know
say.
there's a lot of references to Netflix shows within it as well.
Yeah.
It's really embarrassing when it was like, oh, have you ever seen The Crown? Have you ever seen Tiger King? It's like, oh, right, yeah, they're Netflix shows.
No, 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 I never
It
heard of
really felt
them.
like none of Charlie Brooker's ones felt like that when he's on the BBC. He'd always give like a very fair sort of critique of all shows, like shows. I know he used to criticize shows on the BBC, shows on Channel 4, shows on all these channels,
You criticize
and
everything.
praise them as well, you know.
Yeah,
But
exactly. You just
I
make
find,
actual interesting jokes. Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, of course, in Charlie Brooker's like wipes as well, you used to have the kind of talking head segments as well. I don't know if you remember those, like
hmm
Philomena Kunk and
but they were funny.
the guys, but yeah, they were actually funny because they were, and they were also condensed as well. They were only like one part of the wider show.
Yeah,
Like when it's the entire show, it's just,
yeah. Like
it's
the
like,
Philomena Kunk is obviously like a character,
yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't know. It's a more funny character than like just pretending to be the queen or
Yeah,
a
exactly.
YouTuber.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause she's like she's like stupid, but like a particular kind of stupid. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's so
I feel
funny.
like, I think the Queen jokes are like Trump jokes in that
Oh,
respect.
they are.
It's
Yeah,
like they got old, you know, they're older than her.
they're for
Yeah,
they're for Americans.
yeah,
Like, oh, this is
yeah,
what the queen's like.
yeah, yeah,
Shut up.
yeah. And like Hugh Grant as a historian, that was terrible
Mm,
as well, just as another
it's,
example of something terrible. But
yeah. I mean, yeah, we could go through the whole list of things.
really good, yeah. Is there anything positive that you would say from it? Like anything you could recommend it to?
um, I mean, I must have laughed
I feel
once.
like I must have had a chuckle at some point.
A light chuckle, never a proper
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah. Like I think there maybe
Uh,
been one or two lines that felt slightly Brooker-ish, you know.
the ones
But
at Samuel L. Jackson that where it felt like he was being more himself, those were quite funny.
I quite enjoyed the bit where he was being quite sincere about like the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah,
That felt like his actual voice to me, you know. That felt like
yeah,
something
absolutely.
which was that was somewhat interesting. But
Yeah,
then you just cut back to the guy flossing, the scientist guy
oh
flossing,
god,
and it's like,
yeah,
oh, has
totally.
anybody
It was
done
all
this?
over the
Yeah,
place.
it's like,
Like,
oh, so embarrassing. What's he gonna do next? Get out a fidget spinner or something?
yeah,
Bloody,
oh, the youth.
oh god, it's so embarrassing. It's-
Yeah, I just think this whole thing would have been more enjoyable if it was like more real. but
Yeah,
with a few jokes naturally sprinkled in there,
yeah.
rather than just this weird like trying to be funny the whole way through, like with terrible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't my thing. If you liked it, fair enough.
Yeah. If you were able to get enjoyment out of it, all power to you. But that's, yeah,
Been a while since we properly slated something on movie
yeah,
night.
yes, it is actually. Yeah. Well, I normally don't. I try not to choose like get to watch stuff that I think I would hate. I think that's
No,
part of why
absolutely.
this felt more disappointing to me because I
If
thought I
this
might
was
enjoy
longer
it.
than an hour, I wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah,
Put it that way. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I think it's the weird halfway house between being a Charlie Brooker project and being hearing what these celebrities have to say about the year, and you basically end up getting neither because you have celebrities giving strict like scripted lines, but the script doesn't feel like it was written by Charlie Brooker. So
Yeah,
it's
you're
weird.
absolutely right.
No one's satisfied, like
You hit the
what you
nail on the head.
get out of it. So if you want to watch what Charlie Brooker thinks of 2020, just watch the antiviral wipe he made. I mean, you wouldn't get his entire commentary on 2020 because it was made earlier in the year, but it is
I mean,
significant. And you can
other
watch it
than
on free on
like,
iPlayer. You don't have to.
yeah, other
Yeah,
than like the Black Lives Matter stuff,
yeah.
which again you're not gonna get from this really because there wasn't really much interesting commentary on it in this.
No, it's no. There's not
So
really that you haven't heard before. No, you're not
exactly,
watching a
like
news. You're not watching a news program. Of course, you're meant to be watching an entertainment program.
yeah. So if you just want something that's funny that recounts a lot of the stuff that happened in 2020,
Yeah,
just watch the antiviral wipe.
exactly. Yeah, that's going to be you're going to get much more out of that than you are going to get out of this. And I would recommend checking out that review in the Independent.
Yeah.
I might try and send the link to you or something if I can remember. But
Yeah, I'll put it in the description.
it was just an interesting take on a lot of the problems with it and why it feels like it was so like
Yeah.
manufactured as opposed to actually created.
It's basically just going to be this, but more eloquent and more
Yeah, pretty much.
sophisticated.
Yeah, this but by someone who gets paid to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Although if anybody does want
Uh,
to pay us for doing this,
what are you talking about? We're making mad money in ad
yeah, actually, we all
revenue.
mentions we don't. Please give me.
I think they know. Did you have a final score for it, or were you just saying getting
Well, I
addicted?
think on Letterboxd I gave it like 1.5 or something, but honestly, that was pretty generous. I'd dive
Yeah,
down to like one. I think
I was hesitant to give it
fundamentally,
1 star.
yeah, if you're fundamentally not laughing at something, like
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
save my half-star rating for like the absolute worst things I've ever seen.
it's
So
true. I might bump mine up. I did put a 1/2 star, but just
yeah.
because
Yeah,
I
well,
usually just
I'm happy to dish the half-star out for the absolute worst, but that it's very safe for the Jack and Jills of this,
that is
Jack and
true.
Jills of this world get that rating.
I just think like in terms of what's worthwhile watching, like this is pretty like completely
Oh
not
no,
worth
I wouldn't
watching.
recommend this to anyone. No, I really couldn't like unless
Yeah,
you want
that's
to.
why I gave a 1/2 star. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
you're
really
right. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's just
no, but
pointless.
I really couldn't like recommend this, particularly when there's better examples of what this is trying to do out there. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
right.
But yeah.
Well, thank you for listening. So we recommend that you don't check out Netflix.
Well, yeah, by the way, we're sponsored by Netflix for this
Yeah,
review.
we're actually, but please do not cancel your Netflix subscriptions. Do watch The Crown and Tiger King and everything else on there.
Oh dear.
Right. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.